Welcome back to the channel. Make
Africa
great
again.
Hey, I'm with my man Fred. Fred, please introduce yourself to the people.
Okay, so in the last couple of videos, I never got to say that I'm Fred. I'm a hobbyist entertainer, hoping to be a full-time entertainer. I do comedy, I do stand-up. I've got a band called the Couch Ninjas, got a YouTube, the Couch Ninjas. The Couch Ninjas, yeah. It's got a YouTube channel, it's got an Instagram. We like to do like crazy, exciting campaigns with other artists. We're currently doing something with t-shirts at the moment. You'll check that out. And we're just trying to have fun with it and trying to come up with unique ways of elderly men making it, and elderly white men making it making it in rock and roll.
Yeah, man.
So yeah, we have to think out the box a little bit with that. Yeah,
gots to, man.
Yeah.
So you guys check out Fred. He's a good guy, my brother from another mother. But here today, we're here to talk about our experience with Orania. Definitely. I know Fred's been telling me he has a lot of things he wants to talk about, get off his chest. Yes. And kind of, when we were doing the whole tour, we weren't really able to really talk much because we were learning.
Correct, yeah.
So this video is kind of us explaining how we felt about the tour and what we thought about Orania, essentially.
Yeah, what our thoughts are after the fact, because it's difficult to bring up like, A, what you object to while you're doing it, and then B, sort of what you agree with while you're doing it.
Definitely. So, I guess, where do we begin? I don't know. I'll let you start off, Red. Like, what did you think about the whole tour and about the whole experience?
Okay, yeah. Well, firstly, I just want to say, if Steph ever does watch us, the guy that showed us around the town, real sweetheart. He didn't have to show us around. He didn't have to. So just to give you guys a bit of context, when we arrived, we're supposed to book like a normal tour, which you can go online right now and you can book a tour to Orania, which I imagine is some kind of like group tour, right? But we arrived late, so we couldn't do the group tour. So this guy, Jurist, who you saw in the other video, said, look, give me 15 minutes and I'll help you out personally. Yep. So I'm super grateful for him for doing. He didn't have to do that.
Not at all.
I will say, I wonder how different it would have been if it wasn't a white guy and two clearly South African people. If he would have been as accommodating. We don't know.
We don't know.
But he was very sweet and nice, and the people, myself and the other people that have watched it, have said that he had a really good way of explaining how the town worked without kind of being divisive, without saying, black people are lazy and it's we industrious whites that do everything. You know what I'm saying? You're just like, look, this is how we do our town, blah, blah, blah. So I thought he was really good with that. I will say, which I said to you before, if he did have theme music or a theme song, it would definitely be Smooth Operator.
Yeah, he was a smooth talker is what he's saying. And I agree with you, Fred. What I will say, because people were kind of judgmental on us going there, and they said that we seemed very accepting of the township. But what I will say is the gentleman was very hospitable.
Yeah.
And for us on this trip we were going there to learn. We weren't going there to antagonize, cause drama, cause friction. We were going there to learn so that you guys could also learn from the content, which I think it was a very educational tour.
Correct.
And the gentleman, yes, he was very hospitable. He was very articulate, and he did a very good job of explaining some of the things that I was curious to learn about.
Absolutely. And, just to kind of wrap up more about my criticism of the whole concept, right? Like when I was talking to some of the people that I stay with, some of the black people I stay with, they were like, well, if apartheid was still around, do you think Orania would be there? It's a good point. It's an interesting point. And also, look, I just don't feel segregation. I like the idea of what they're doing with the thing, but I grew up a portion of my life during apartheid, and I grew up when apartheid was ending. So I understand why it's better, A, not to be racist, and B, why it's not good to segregate communities. And it was something that my parents were very important to them, that I didn't go to a school where they were just white. So I don't agree with that. But the things I do agree with is taking control of your own community. And that's something that I would like to explore further, because I think when the guy said that South Africa is ungovernable, that really set something off, because we left on the day that there were supposed to be strikes.
Well, there were strikes.
Yeah, there were strikes. And the country was supposed to be shut down. And the thing is, when the EFF threatens the government with action, the government makes sure there's power, makes sure that there's water, you know? So I just think that what we can learn as people that live in communities is maybe ways of like getting more involved in our own community structures and being able to say like, look, in what ways can we empower, what lessons can we take from a community like Orania and empower everyone around what services are on the table that we can in fact have more control over.
No, that's a great point, Fred. That's a great point. And to share my 2 cents, I actually, coming from America, I have a different perspective. And me living in South Africa, I can essentially say, you guys' government, the South African government, the ANC, the one who's been in power since the apartheid, the party that was that Nelson Mandela was a part of. This party is not looking out for its people. The government here in South Africa is doing a horrible job. And I am also educated. And let me say this. Your president, Ramaphosa, and a lot of you guys as presidents and politicians, they are not doing, they are being controlled by other parties and by other people from other countries. So I am educated on that. I do realize that it is not just black and white. There's a lot of things happening behind the scene, like neo-colonialism. And if you don't know what neo-colonialism is, look it up, where you have a lot of these countries having control over these African countries, but from a distance. And so that's one thing I wanted to point out, because like Fred did point out, when we went there, it was on Monday, and it was when the EFF was protesting about the government, protesting about the load shedding, protesting about all the money that was missing during COVID, all kind of corruption and things that are going on here. And so I am not going to place it on, say that these black leaders are corrupt and horrible. I believe these black leaders are nothing more but puppets being controlled by neo-colonialism. Okay? That's number one, what I want to state. Number two, as an African American, Fred, and I don't know if I shared this with you, the blacks in America, one of the best times when we were really thriving was actually when we were segregated. We had a Black Wall Street where we had our own banks, we had our own hospitals, we had our own grocery stores, and we were self-sufficient, which was a good thing, right? And when blacks became integrated in America, a lot of our black-owned businesses died, and we no longer became self-sufficient. And we as Black Americans, we pretty much became like trying to keep up with the Joneses. We are now trying to move into their neighborhoods. We now have neglected a lot of our black communities. We now have tried to get their clothes, Gucci, Versace, all these rappers are rapping about Versace and all these name brands and all these things. And we now have shifted our perspective in America from a community to now trying to keep up with the Kardashians, keep up with this person. So we now in America, they need the newest iPhone. They need the latest Versace. They need the latest Gucci. And it has, unfortunately, as me living there, it has made people really, the word, I think the best word is self-absorbed or corrupt.
Yeah.
And so
or maybe without substance, something like shallow.
There's the word. We've become really shallow in America. And one thing I did respect about this community is they have become self-sufficient. And what I told Fred and what the gentleman made a great point in our video was, it's one thing that they created this community and they had blacks coming there and doing all the dirty work. They had blacks coming there and doing the sewage. They had blacks coming there and cleaning the homes. They had the blacks coming there and building the homes. And then after a certain time, you had to go back home. No, what they are doing is even the dirty work is being given to the people, to their people in that community, for them all to have a part to play, so that every person in that community feels like they are contributing to something bigger than themselves. And I did respect that perspective, because I do think integration has been overrated. I think integration has not been good for a lot of black people, because we now are trying to play catch up. We now are more worried about getting the latest Mercedes Benz, getting the new Lamborghini, getting a big chain that says just ignorant things on it, so that we can look like money, rather than us really trying to build up our communities and help black people. And like LeBron James is a perfect example of this. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but LeBron James gives back to where he's from, Akron, Ohio. He goes back in the community and invests his money in his community. He's buying property and building basketball courts and doing things. He built a school in his community. He is giving back to his community, but that's just one brother. A majority of these celebrities and these athletes in America, it's all about gimme, 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 and let me move over here in this nice neighborhood, and I don't want nothing to do with my people anymore. So I respect Orania in the perspective that they are self-sufficient. They are not relying on the government, and that's one thing I want to tell you, Black South Africans. Stop relying on this government. It's time for you to take the power back. This government is heading in the wrong direction. Take power back in your own hands. And that's what Orania is doing, essentially, and I have to respect that. What do you feel about what I'm saying concerning that?
Well, I think I just want to kind of wrap up and just express my gratitude to you, because your perspective is something that I never really would ever think about as a white South African that is trying to overcome my racism from the past. You know what I'm saying? So I'm also trying to overcome the kind of brainwashing from the old government to say, oh, all black people are lazy and dangerous and all of that. And then also, trying to hear different perspectives on why you are curious about a community like Orania, because I never would be. And I don't really understand. I would always look at what blacks are going through in America through the lens of, oh, segregation is wrong, and to meet you and thank you for giving me the opportunity to go with you and providing the transport and that, and to learn about where you're coming from. Like I said before I left, it's not so black and white. Obviously, I believe in integration. I believe that people that want to mix with other races and live alongside them equally and treat human beings like human beings should. But at the same degree, as long as there's no harm in it and there's no violence around it, people do want to form their own autonomous communities around their cultural lines or their racial lines or whatever. I mean, if you're doing it in the way of Oranians, who am I to kind of judge or to try and stop it? Because the other thing that the guy was saying that I respected was he kept saying we don't want to get into these debates about whether our culture is wrong. We just want to roll our sleeves up and carry on doing the work. We want to set up our own universities. We want to keep building our town and just focus our energy on doing. And I think the problem with issues like segregation and things like this is that you can argue for hours and hours and use these kind of things as political tools to actually stop things from being done, stop things from working properly, and I think that's kind of where we got to watch out with the whole political thing. I think what this has taught me is that to decentralize power however you can in communities is always a good thing, because if you have a small group of people trying to rule over a bunch of people, it doesn't work. If people aren't empowered to have certain say in how things get done as groups, it breaks down a little bit. And that's what we're experiencing in South Africa. I tried to take an inner city train the other day, and the thing broke. I took 2 trains, they both broke down after one station. And this is something that no one hears about. You know why? Because black people take this train the whole time. I was literally the only white person there, and I was just doing it as a tourist, you know? And I'm not trying to be political about this kind of thing. I'm just saying, like, meeting you and meeting people, I'm learning a lot. I'm learning a lot about different things. So my final word is just to say thank you for showing me different sides of things. And I'm hoping to take what I have learned and apply it to coming up with different ideas or different solutions with like-minded people that do want to be more empowered in their communities.
Yes, I agree. And I want to say this. I shared my pro. Now I will share my con. Let me say this. My con to the whole thing is that he was a smooth talker, as Fred said. Very good talker. But he tried to use, and you said you were offended by this, he tried to use African Americans as a reference point because we're the same. We're African Americans, we're like the same as a minority in our country as they are here in South Africa. That was a reference point that he was using that you didn't like, and I just listened. But where he did say the difference between African Americans and us is Afrikaners, you guys never had power. My issue with this township, even though I see and I respect what they're doing, is that it's very sensitive to do that here in South Africa. If you want to have your own township, and I see a lot of black South Africans saying, "Oh no, this is fine. They're living in peace." That's your problem with black Africans. Period. You guys are too friendly. Period. That's just it. My issue is, Fred, is that they need to go do this township somewhere else. They need to go do this township back in Holland, the Netherlands, wherever they come from. Go do it there, okay? My issue is after the history and the trauma, like me and Fred was speaking to one of his roommates. Her dad was a freedom fighter, okay? We told her about our trip. She broke down in tears and got very emotional because her dad still has scars and wounds for trying to fight for the freedom and the liberty that was deserved of their people. And she said that town, even talking about her, rubbed her the wrong way and made her get very emotional. So what I will say, even though you guys might have thought I was in agreement with this guy, I was there to learn, but I don't agree. I think that they need to do this township somewhere else. Go to America. Go to America. Yeah, they will welcome. They'll embrace, because what the gentleman let us know, they got people donating money to them all around the world. So they could go to America, where their ideologies and them preserving their culture will be respected. They can go to South America. They can go anywhere and create their own township and do what they're doing. But I think it's highly disrespectful and insensitive to do this in a country where what your ancestors did caused a lot of pain and a lot of trauma for people who have still not healed from that pain and that trauma that your ancestors did. That's how I really feel.
It was really rich of the guy to be like, oh, you know, like the Afrikaner struggle is similar to the black the African American struggle. It's like, oh, really? Your guys arrived in fucking slave ships. No, like it's not like you're going to say that like Obama being in power is the same as being years and years in power and creating the laws of segregation, and you're going to compare this. That was not on, you know. So that definitely deserves a big throat clearance. And I agree. I mean, it is, if they had the money to buy the land to start their town, I'm sure that same amount of money would have got them something similar anywhere else in the world, you know? And especially in America. I mean, America is made up of immigrants. It's an immigrant nation, you know, like it just is what it is. I'm not trying to shit on it. A lot of what the ethos of America is very like go-getting and roll up your sleeves and stuff. But you know what, like what I do hope comes out of this and you know why I continue to support Make Africa Great Again is that I hope that there are a lot of African Americans that are tired of what's happening in America that come this side and start their own communities, So that I would like to see, and that I would, as even who I am, that is something I would be proud to be a part of.
And let me just say this before we end the video, Fred. What I was most surprised, and one thing I will tell you guys about Orania, the people were actually more friendly than I thought. We were driving around, every car that passed us waved at us. People were waving, people were smiling, people were actually, I thought I was going to go there and it was going to be very hostile kind of environment. Like, what is this guy doing here, But surprisingly, the people were very friendly, and that really shocked me. And I didn't get a vibe or a sense where it was like, I came there and it's like, hey, nigger, what you doing here? No Negroes allowed. See, we don't even give tours to black people, so just go home. I will give them that one perspective, is that they were very kind, and it wasn't the kind of racism that I've dealt with in America, where, you got certain parts of Alabama that you don't even go into, or after a certain time. And that's one thing I will tell you that I respect about this place. They are honest and transparent about how they feel. Whereas in America, you can just make a wrong turn in Louisville, Kentucky, or somewhere in the South and fall off in a neighborhood that you're not even aware about, that is completely racist. And I respect the transparency. I respect them being honest about how they feel, rather than, like in America, you have a lot of cities and a lot of places that are all whites and they don't like black people, and you don't know until you make the wrong turn and you end up in a place and you end up maybe dead. So I respect their transparency, and I think it was very educational. And let me thank you as well, Fred. Thank you for coming, because I think with Fred being there, it made it we got a little bit better treatment. And I think also with me being African American, he definitely played to those to me being African American.
But what might be really good is if any black South Africans that are watching this have been to Orania and had a different experience from us, we'd love to sit down with you and to hear what your experience was. And so, I think that would be really good if there is someone that has been to Orania from South Africa. We would love to sit down and hear what your experience, and also why you went. Like, why did you go? Were you angry? Were you curious? So
yeah. Well, thank you, brother.
Thank you, Jermaine.
Yes, my brother. We did it. My brother from another mother. Thank you guys for tuning in. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will be having more content coming for you in the future. All right.
Peace.
Peace out, you guys. Take care.